Today, Honda might not be known for making the fastest motorcycle or the most powerful engines or creating any new or groundbreaking technology. However, there was a time when Honda was all of those things, and that time wasn't very long ago. I present to all of you the history of Honda's legendary Super BlackBird. The Honda Super BlackBird, otherwise known as the CBR1100XX, or just Honda BlackBird, was Honda's answer to Kawasaki's ZX-11R and Honda's chance at claiming the title as the world's fastest motorcycle. Honda named the BlackBird after the Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird, an aircraft which is the current record holder for a manned air-breathing jet aircraft even to today. In fact, not to get off on a tangent, but if you have a moment, you should Google the Lockheed SR-71. I'm not someone who's really into aircraft, but this thing is seriously cool and has an awesome history. Definitely something worth reading about. And with the Lockheed's legendary reputation, anything named after it has some serious large shoes to fill, which Honda had every intention on filling. Honda first introduced the CBR1100XX Super BlackBird in late 1996 as a 1997 model, and the original colors black, titanium, and red. Like most of Honda's bikes back in the time, the BlackBird was known for the combination of having a smooth, powerful engine, good handling, comfort, reliability, and quality. These qualities were nothing new for Honda though, as the predecessor to the Honda BlackBird, the Honda CBR1100F Hurricane, which was released in 1987, was renowned for having these exact same attributes. And the Hurricane was mostly the same for the entire 10-year run with only a few minor changes throughout. The BlackBird is the successor to the 1000F Hurricane, and because of that, it was a completely new and all-improved motorcycle design over the Hurricane. Interestingly enough, despite having the fastest top speed in the world at the time, the BlackBird wasn't really a sport bike. It was actually classified as a sport touring motorcycle, if you can believe that. What makes it a sport touring bike? Well, for starters, it doesn't have clip-ons. The bar height mimics the VFR's bar height, which helps make the BlackBird more upright and comfortable. And the BlackBird also had a center stand and grab handle, which make it more practical for touring purposes. Also adding to the comfort of this bike is the powertrain. The engine is an 1137cc inline-4 making 164 horsepower and 91.5 foot-pound of torque at 11,800 RPM. The best part of the BlackBird's power though is the download torque. 91.5 foot-pound of torque is an insane number, even to today's standards, and most inline-4 liter bikes today still don't make those numbers. Now, even though the BlackBird was heavy with a 559-pound curb weight, the extra weight just made the bike feel much more stable. Obviously, having low weight is nice to have, but when you are doing some long-distance commuting and touring, having a little weight on your side is actually a good thing. It makes the bike feel more planted on the highway and makes it a much better cruiser. Now, I'm not saying that Honda purposely engineered weight into this thing. All I'm saying is that even though it weighs a lot, it is something you will come to appreciate when using the BlackBird for its intended purpose. As for the styling, I understand that a lot of people dislike the styling of the Honda BlackBird. I'll admit that it is an antiquated design, but I do not think that Honda deserves criticism for designing the BlackBird to look this way. This was the 90s, and the other motorcycles that manufacturers were making were not much better. You have to take into account the era the bike was designed, and during the time that the BlackBird was released, few criticized it for its looks. And you have to give Honda credit, the side view isn't bad at all. Also, the BlackBird has turn signal mirrors, a feature pretty ahead of its time. I think most people just criticize it for the big headlight, but again, almost every bike during this era had a big single headlight design. And I don't think it looks bad given the context of what this bike is in the era it was created. Now, the BlackBird was more than just a powerful engine. The BlackBird also had plenty of technology to go around with it. such as a dual shaft balancer system which helps the engine rev up smoothly and eliminates any vibrations. This is one of the reasons why Honda was able to eliminate rubber mounts, which allowed the engine to be bolted directly to the frame, which made it a more rigid motorcycle. And because of that, not only was the BlackBird fast and comfortable, but it also could handle very well for itself. The suspension setup was not far behind even the super sport bikes of that era, and the BlackBird was very easy to maneuver in the twisties. The brakes were also more than adequate and had tons of technology packed inside, including Honda's innovative dual combined brake system, which is still used to this day. The dual combined brakes basically mean when you apply the front brakes, it will automatically apply some of the rear brakes and vice versa. My VFR has the exact same system and it works incredibly well. Honda's BlackBird may have had a very impressive top speed at that time, but it also had a very impressive 10-second quarter-mile time and a 0 to 60 time of around 3 seconds flat. The BlackBird was impressive then, and it is impressive now. As the years went by, the BlackBird went through some minor changes. For instance, in the year 1998, just 1 year after it was released, there was a small update to the thermostat housing. And in 1999, Honda gave the BlackBird its biggest update throughout its entire run. First, Honda decided to change from using carburetors to their PGM FI fuel injection system. In addition to that, Honda added in a ram air system to provide more air into the engine and thus increasing horsepower slightly. Fuel capacity was also increased from 22 liters to 24 liters. The brakes were also slightly altered, along with the choke lever being removed completely as it was no longer necessary. The oil cooler was lower and wider to accommodate for the ram air system. The tail lights, forks, axles, ignition, front wheel, rotor, stator cover and clutch cover, rear inner fender, and much more were also slightly tweaked for the 1999 model year. And in 2001, the BlackBird was upgraded to have a digital dashboard, which looks much nicer and more modern than the previous analog dashboard. And finally, in 2003, Honda canceled the BlackBird for the US market. But it was still produced in Europe until Honda finally killed off the BlackBird after a 10-year run in 2007. As you can see, the BlackBird kept its original characteristics throughout the years, and it is still a relevant bike even to today's standards. It's sad that Honda didn't continue to produce the BlackBird like Suzuki did with their Hayabusa or Kawasaki with their ZX-14. I guess it goes to show where Honda's priorities lie. Some argue that the VFR 1200 was meant to fill the shoes of the BlackBird, but in my opinion the VFR 1200 is not a worthy successor. Honda needs to bring back the BlackBird someday because it was a really cool bike that achieved something that was very special and deserves another model run. Anyway everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, then please hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all my new motorcycle videos. Anyway, thanks again so much for watching. I hope you all have a good one. Take care and bye-bye.